Hello and welcome to Hoopla Kids Recipes. Today I'm going to show you how to bake some delicious cartoon character cakes. These are so good you'll wish you had baked too. We have for you Peppa Pig, Princess Elsa from Frozen, My Little Pony Rainbow Dash covered in M&Ms, yummy and so delicious, sweet little buns from Wheels on the Bus, a little ditty or a hum of the song. Come on then, let's embark on this sweet journey. Let's get cooking. First up, we have Peppa Pig in all her pink glory. Doesn't she look cute? So for this, you are going to need 500 grams of pink buttercream frosting, a sponge cake, a Peppa Pig cutout, and you're also going to need some black writing icing, 150 grams of dark pink buttercream frosting, 3 piping bags and number 30 piping nozzle, and 50 grams of purple buttercream frosting. Finally, you're going to need 50 grams of white fondant icing, a cookie cutter, and a rolling pin. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is to cut off Peppa's ears. We're now going to lay our template of Peppa on top of our sponge cake and cut around the edge. Make sure you get a parent to help you. Keep going. We're now going to cut out Peppa's ears separately, so don't chuck out the edge of your sponge. Great. Now we're going to stick on Peppa's ears using some buttercream frosting as glue. Now we want to make sure that Peppa is the right colour, so we're going to cover her in the light pink buttercream frosting. Make sure you get the edges as well. Don't worry if it gets on your baseboard, we can clean that up later. Like so. Set that aside. Now we're going to take our dark pink buttercream frosting and spoon it into our piping bag. Make sure you don't use all of your buttercream frosting because we want to separate half of this into another piping bag. Set that aside, because now it's time to make Peppa's eyes. We're going to roll out our white fondant icing. Use our cookie cutter to make 2 circles. Use the printout of Peppa's head as a guide and make sure that the eyes are the right size. Smooth down the edges, and then use the first eye as a template to cut the second eye. I'm now spooning my purple icing into a piping bag. Now we're going to spoon the rest of our dark pink buttercream frosting into our third piping bag. This one should have the nozzle in it. Perfect. Now it's time to decorate Peppa's base. Let's pop the eyes on first. And we're now taking the dark pink buttercream frosting in the bag that doesn't have a nozzle. We're going to go around the edge of Peppa, just like this. Don't forget to go around her eyes as well. And of course, she needs her snout. I'm drawing a spiral circle for her cheek. Now I'm taking the purple icing and doing Peppa's smile. The black writing icing to do the pupils in her eyes, and I'm dabbing this down using my finger, but make sure you've wet your finger so that the icing doesn't stick. Now we're going to take the icing in the bag that's got the nozzle. This is going to create a great trim around the edge on the baseboard. Just like this. And perfect! There you have it! A Peppa Pig birthday cake. Doesn't Peppa look great? Wow! That Peppa cake looked so delicious. I just want to eat all of it. Now we have the enchanting Princess Elsa from Frozen. Doesn't she look beautiful? So for this you're going to need 500 grams of white fondant icing, 300 grams of light blue icing, 1 kilogram of dark blue icing, 300 grams of buttercream frosting, chocolate sponge cakes. You're also going to need a polishing tool, ELSA letter cake cutters, snowflake cutters, a large cake board, a white bodice template, paintbrush decorating tools, a rolling pin, and an ELSA doll. You're also going to need some string. So the first thing we want to do is to lightly dust our tabletop. This is so when we roll out our fondant icing, it doesn't stick. I'm rolling out the white. We want to make a circle the size of our baseboard. Put the fondant icing on top and cut around the edge. Now we're going to take our cake and we're going to cover it in buttercream frosting. Layer your second cake on top. It's like a big delicious sandwich. We're going to keep going. This is going to be the main part of the dress for Elsa. So we want to shape the top. It should come in as if it's sitting on her waist. We're now going to cover the entire thing in the buttercream frosting. Let it chill in the fridge for 2 hours. Once that's done, we get to add Elsa. We want to cut a circular shape in the top of our cake. We need it to be big enough for Elsa to sit in, like so. We're now going to use our string to measure the dimensions of the dress. Cut it so it's the right length and set it aside. Now we're going to use the dark blue to make our dress. And using our string, we know how big the dress needs to be. Clever, huh? Cut a circle in the middle. This is so that Elsa can sit in it. We're also going to cut a slit down the side. Place Elsa and her cake base on top of the white fondant icing. We're now going to place her light blue dress over the top. You might need to remove Elsa to do this. This is what it looks like from the side. It's great if it's got ripples, because it makes it look like real fabric. Trim the bottom of the dress so it's not too long. We don't want her tripping over. I'm now wrapping Elsa in cling film. This is so she doesn't stick. Now we're going to use the bodice template to cut out the bodice shape on the dark blue fondant icing. I'm using my stamp to add some detail. Now we're going to apply some water to Elsa's body. This will make sure that the bodice sticks to her. Now I'm adding the dress. Shape using your tools. This will make sure it fits perfectly. We're now going to roll out some of the light blue icing. We're going to make the sleeves, so we want 2 rectangle shapes. I'm applying some water to her sleeves. This means that they will attach themselves to the arms. We don't want her sleeves falling off. Let's pop her sleeves on. Use the shaping tool to make sure that the top is perfect. I'm now rolling out some of the light blue fondant icing. I want to make a really long, thin rectangle shape. This is going to be the detail at the top of Elsa's bodice. Add some water and apply it. Cut off any excess. Use the shaping tool to make sure you get a perfect finish. Now, it's time for Elsa to sit in her dress. You might need to push her down a bit. I'm now taking some of the dark blue fondant icing and rolling it into a long spaghetti shape. This will hide the seam between her skirt and her bodice, so lay it on top. Now it's time to make her cloak. Roll out the light fondant icing. We want to make a big rounded square. And then cut it in half. We're going to add each half to the dress. It's looking great! Adjust it so that you're happy. And smooth down the top so that it sits nicely lined up with her bodice. Now let's add the other half. It might help if you paint some water on to make the fondant stick. Once again, use your shaping tool to fix any detail at the top. Remember, practice makes perfect. This is what it looks like so far. Isn't she looking great? I'm now using my snowflake stamp to add detail to the dress. I'm taking my white fondant icing and I'm going to cut out some actual snowflakes so that they can sit on top. I'm using a big cutter and a small cutter. I'm also using the dark blue and white fondant icing. Add a dab of water and then stick on your snowflake. The water acts like glue. I also want to write ELSA to stick it on the base plate. So use your cutters and cut out the letters. E, L, S, and finally, A. Again, add a little bit of water. This will stick perfectly to the white base we created out of fondant icing. Doesn't she look amazing? I'm super excited to show you guys the finished product. If you want, you can add a little bit of edible glitter on top. You might add it to the snowflakes. Or perhaps her dress. This will give it a little bit of extra flair. I'm also sprinkling some glitter over the top. Make sure it's edible. And there you have it. She's done. Doesn't she look amazing? So pretty. And the best part is, you can eat it. Delicious. Doesn't she look so amazing? I almost don't want to eat her. I want to save her and keep her on a shelf. Now we move on to another enchanting and blue character. It's Rainbow Dash. And guess what? She's going to be covered in M&Ms. For this, you're going to need 135 grams of orange M&Ms, 90 grams of purple, 90 grams of green, 90 grams of yellow, 90 grams of red, 150 grams of white fondant icing, 270 grams of dark blue M&Ms, and 360 grams of pale blue M&Ms. That is a lot of M&Ms. We're also going to need 250 grams of unsalted butter, 500 grams of icing sugar, and sponge cake to fit a My Little Pony cutout. Also, you're going to need some blue food colouring. To help decorate, we're going to need yellow writing icing, red writing icing, blue writing icing, and black fondant icing. You're also going to need a Rainbow Dash cutout, the size of your cake. Is to add our butter and icing sugar to a bowl. We're going to mix this using an electric whisk. Add some blue food colouring to colour the mixture. Once you're sure you've got no lumps, we're going to take our blue icing and we're going to spread it on top of one of our cakes. We're going to add the other cake on top. It's kind of like a giant sandwich. Now we want to put our Rainbow Dash cutout on top of our cakes. We're going to cut around the edge. This means we'll get a giant Rainbow Dash shaped cake ready for decorating. This will take some time, so be patient. And there you have it. It's not meant to look perfect yet because we haven't decorated it. So we're going to cover the entire cake in blue icing. This is only a base coat, so it doesn't matter if you can see some of the cake underneath. We're going to refrigerate for 2 hours. Now that's done, we're going to add a second coat of icing. Smooth down the edges. Once you're happy with the icing, we're going to take a cocktail stick and we're going to sketch the outline of Rainbow Dash's detail. This will make it easier when we add the M&Ms. Now it's time for the fun bit. adding the M&Ms. I'm starting at the top, but you don't have to. You can start wherever you want. This is where it really helps that you've done an outline using a toothpick. It's already looking amazing, right? The rainbow tail looks great. Don't forget to do the sides. And there we have it! It looks so cool! Now it's time to do some detail. I'm going to make Rainbow Dash's eye using white fondant icing. I'm going to add some colouring to make it dark purple. Set that aside. And now we're going to take some white fondant icing and cut the shape of Rainbow Dash's eye out. Roll out the dark purple. We want to cut an oval shape. This is going to sit on top of the white fondant icing. Just like so. Make sure you smooth down any edges. Now take the black icing. We're going to cut a smaller oval shape and add it on top of the purple. We've now got 3 layers. There's still one more to go, and this is white. Add the white on top. And finally, we're going to take a tiny ball of white icing, just to add a little bit more detail. Now we're going to add detail to Rainbow Dash's body. I'm cutting out a cloud shape first, using a stamp. Now I'm going to use some flat fondant icing to make a lightning bolt. Stick the two together. Now using icing, we're going to add colour. I'm starting with red. Then yellow. And blue. I'm outlining the cloud in black. This is so it stands out on the amazing rainbow that we got on her body. Don't forget to add detail. And then add it. Just like so. I'm using icing to stick the detail on, including the eye. Once the eye's in place, I'm using the black writing icing to go around the edge and to add eyelashes. This looks amazing! I'm so happy with how it's turned out. This would be perfect for a birthday party. And it's gonna taste delicious. I just love the way Rainbow Dash looks. Kids are going to love it. The last and final cake is the Wheels on the Bus cake. If you love nursery rhymes, you're going to love this one. So for this, you're going to need 500 grams of buttercream frosting, 2 large rectangular and 2 small rectangular sponge cakes. You're also going to need 300 grams of white fondant icing, 300 grams of pink fondant icing, orange royal icing, 400 grams of black and grey fondant icing, 600 grams of blue fondant icing, 6 straws, a piping nozzle as a cutter, and 1.5 kilograms of yellow fondant icing. So the first thing we're going to do is to spread some buttercream frosting onto our rectangles. This is so that the base sticks to our baseboard. These are going to be the wheels. And we're now adding the large rectangle on top. Time to cover in buttercream icing. And then add the second layer of the giant rectangle on top. It's now time to shape the cake, which I'm doing with a knife. We want to make it look like a bus, so not too square. Perfect. This is looking great. Now it's time to add more buttercream icing. This is called the crumb coat, which will catch all the loose crumbs. Cover the entire thing with the frosting and then refrigerate for 2 hours. Now it's time to make the bus shell with yellow fondant icing. Lightly dust your work surface and then take the yellow fondant icing and roll it out flat. We want it to be really big. It's got to cover our entire bus. Now we're going to take our straws. We want to push these in. They're going to act like pillars and support the weight of the cake. This will give structure, kind of the way pillars do in a building. I'm adding these over the wheels. In each corner of the bus, cut off the top of the straws. And don't forget that they're in there. Now drape your yellow icing over the top of the bus. And smooth it down. Use your fingers to push it up underneath the large base rectangle. And cut away any excess. This is what it'll look like. Wow, it's already starting to look like a bus. Now it's time for the wheels, so grab your black fondant icing and roll it out flat. Use a cookie cutter to get a circle shape. Obviously, we want 4 of them. Now we're going to take some more yellow fondant to make the hubcaps. I'm using a piping nozzle as a stencil because it makes a great little circle. Set them inside your bigger wheel. Now I'm making a grey bumper. So take the grey fondant icing and roll it flat. I'm using a straw to measure the size of my bumper. Cut it in an arc shape. Add a little bit of water to the back of the bumper and then add it on the front of the bus. Now we're going to stick on the wheels. Remember to add a little bit of water. It acts like glue. Let's make a happy bus. So take some white fondant icing to make some teeth. This means our bus will be smiling. Again, use the straw to measure. We're going to cut 2 strips. 1 and 2. Remember to wet it. And let's make our bus have a happy face. Super cute. Now he's smiling. I'm using pink fondant icing to make a tongue. Again, I'm using a straw as a measuring tool, like a ruler. Here's my tongue. Stick it on. Perfect. It's starting to take shape. Now we're going to make the windscreen. I'm making this out of light blue fondant icing, so roll it out flat. If you're unsure of the size, make an indentation before you cut. But don't forget, if you make a mistake, just roll it up into a ball and do it again. Perfect. So now I'm making some eyes. Cut 2 circles out of white fondant icing. Now let's put them on our bus. Make sure you wet the back of your windscreen and then stick it on. Once the windscreen's on, we can stick on our eyes. They go in the bottom corners, just like this. So now it's time to make the rest of the windows. We're going to cut the different shapes needed out of light blue. Just follow me. Now let's stick them on. This is what the side of the bus looks like. Wow! So now we're taking some orange royal icing and we're adding detail. Just like so. Remember, if you need to smooth down the icing, here's a tip from the top. Wet your finger so that the icing smooths and doesn't come off the base. Now let's do the door. Looking good. Let's do around the windscreen. We now need to make the pupils of the eyes, because he isn't quite finished yet. I'm rolling out my grey fondant icing to add more detail to the eyes. Again, like we did with the wheels, we're using the piping nozzle to create a really lovely small circle. Perfect. I'm now cutting 3 smaller circles. 2 of them are going to go on top of our bigger circle, like this. And the third one is for our windscreen wiper. Let's use some white fondant icing to add detail to the eyes. It's a tiny dot. Let's add it in the middle. Looking good. Let's stick them on the bus. There we go. Now let's take that third dot and add it in the middle. This is where our windscreen wiper is going to come from. So take some black writing icing to add the blades. Now it's time to make the wing mirrors. Grab some yellow fondant icing and cut a wedge. We want to shape it so it isn't too square. Add a bit of royal icing as glue, and then add your wing mirror. Don't forget to add the other side. And now for some detail on the hubcaps. Let's draw a cross. And there you have it. Doesn't that look amazing? It's a Wheels on the Bus cake. Can you believe it? And you can eat it. 100% edible and 100% delicious. I hope you had fun with all of our cartoon character cakes, and I hope they taste super delicious when you make them. Thanks for watching Hoopla Kids Recipes. Bye!